Good morning, everyone. It is the middle of March 2022, and I am going to can my very first item for the year 2022. So I have a flat of empty pint jars that I have emptied this winter. I've actually emptied about 4 of these, but I just brought the one up. I'm going to do something I haven't done before. I've seen lots of videos. It's very intriguing. I am going to can Amish coleslaw. So since it's almost St. Patrick's Day, cabbage is extremely cheap right now. So I bought a head of cabbage. So it's not that many ingredients. So you need a head of cabbage, a small onion. This is about, I'm not for sure if I'm going to use all the onion because that's a big onion, 2 carrots, mustard seed, celery seed, vinegar, sugar, and pickling salt. That's it. So, I guess that is like 8 ingredients, but still looks pretty simple to me. I love coleslaw. This is going to be a vinegar coleslaw, not a creamy coleslaw, but I actually like vinegar coleslaws, and so I'm gonna give it a try. And the first step is to slice up your cabbage like you would for coleslaw, dice up the onions small, and shred the carrots and mix that all together in a bowl. Let me get that started. Quick side note, the reason I'm intrigued by this recipe is this is going to be water bath canned. Last year, if you watched any of my canning videos, I majorly canned sweet stuff like jams and jellies. And I did a couple savory like pickles and jalapenos and pickled veggies, but I really concentrated on the sweets. A lot of jams and jellies, they're all water bath canned. They're not pressure canned. I do have a pressure canner. I just have not experimented with it yet. I'm more comfortable with the water bath canner. And most vegetables need to be pressure canned. So when I found this coleslaw recipe that is perfectly safe to water bath can, that intrigued me. This year I plan on canning way more savory stuff. We have plenty of jams to last us for a couple more years. We did eat a bunch of jars of jams and jellies during the winter, but we still have plenty left over. So this year I'm going to concentrate on finding different savory recipes that I can water bath can. That's my main focus right now is water bath canning. I want to perfect water bath canning first, and then I will worry about my pressure canner. Here is the head of cabbage chopped. I did chop it by hand. You could use a food processor, absolutely. I enjoy chopping vegetables by hand, so that is why I did it by hand. You want to chop it or slice it thinly, and then I'm going to grate my carrots and chop my onion fine and mix it all together with a teaspoon of salt. But I'm gonna have to get a bigger bowl. This bowl is not big enough. All right, I really need to invest in one of those huge metal mixing bowls. I don't have one, but I do have a turkey roasting pan that I pretty much only use once a year. So I'm repurposing it. I spread my coleslaw out, I put on my teaspoon of salt and mixed it really good. Now I'm gonna add the onion, carrot, and mix it really good. I have mixed in the onion and the carrots, and as you can see, it looks wet. That is from the salt. The salt is drawing out the moisture out of the cabbage. I'm gonna cover this with a towel and let this sit on the counter as I get my water bath canner started. And before I can this slaw mixture, I will, if there's any extra liquid, I will drain that out. I don't want extra water in the mixture. We are going to make a brine solution. I don't really want to dilute that with extra water, and so the salt is helping draw out the extra water. So for my water bath canner, these jars are clean already, but I will put them in the water bath canner as the water gets to boiling point, just as an extra sanitization step, and because I want my jars hot when I put the coleslaw mixture in. You don't want to put a cold jar into a hot water bath canner, because that can make your jars crack. So that's another reason I'm leaving this on the counter. I do not want to put it in the fridge because I don't want this to be extra cold when I put it into hot jars. Now we are going to make the brine. So this brine is 4 cups of sugar, 3 cups of vinegar, 1 teaspoon of celery seed, and 1 teaspoon of mustard seed. And I know what you're thinking, wow, that is a lot of sugar. It's basically a syrup. But this is what the recipe calls for. I'm sticking with this particular recipe. If that's too much sugar for you, there are numerous recipes out there of different vinegar coleslaws, but I'm picking this one. It's from my favorite Amish cookbook. We're gonna give this one a try. Again, 4 cups sugar, 3 cups vinegar, 1 teaspoon celery, 1 teaspoon mustard seed. And yeah, it's basically a syrup. I think the recipe even calls it a syrup, when usually people call it a brine. But yeah, 4 cups of sugar is definitely a syrup. So first thing is I'm getting all the stuff into the pot, and then I'm just gonna bring it to a low boil, just a low heat until the sugar dissolves, and then I'm gonna let it cool back down. We don't want to pour the hot mixture onto the coleslaw. We want it room temperature. All right, now I'm gonna get this on the stove and warm it up until it all melts together. The reason I'm using my big stock pot is because once the mixture cools back down to room temperature, I will add the drained slaw mixture into this big pot and stir it all together. All right, but it's been almost an hour. As you can hear, my water bath canner is bubbling away. I added the coleslaw mixture. There was probably 2 tablespoons of water that I drained off. And I really did not think this was gonna be enough brine, but it really is. And I was reading over the instructions, and so it does say, so we're gonna pack the jars and leave 1/2 inch headspace. And it did say the liquid's not gonna cover the mixture completely once in the jars. And they said that's okay, that's how it is. So I'm just assuming, I don't know, I don't want to assume anything. Maybe the coleslaw will generate more water. I don't know why it doesn't need to be completely covered, but I'm gonna follow the directions exactly. I mean, I'm extremely tempted to add more brine, but I've learned follow instructions exactly, especially if you're new to cooking. So I'm gonna stick with what the recipe says. And they said, don't worry, the brine will not cover the stuff completely in the jar. You know what I'm talking about? Like if you've ever canned pickles, you always make sure the vinegar is covering the pickles completely. This is not like that at all. All right, so they said pack it in with 1/2 inch headspace. So let me pull out my hot jars and get the cans packed. First, I'm gonna do a quick taste test. Always do a taste test. I've learned that the hard way, even if you're canning, because it's going to be water bath canned for 15 minutes. So technically the slaw is technically going to be cooked for 15 minutes, but it won't change the flavor. It'll just change the crispiness. So let's just do a quick taste test to make sure I like this sweet vinegar solution. Oh my God, it was good. It reminds me of like an Oriental slaw. That's really good. All right, this is 8 jars, and I have no cabbage left, so it worked out perfectly, and there was enough liquid to cover it, not like an overflow of liquid. As you can see, I have 1 inch headspace instead of 1/2 inch. The recipe called for 1/2 inch headspace. I'm not worried that I'm giving it 1 inch headspace. There was more than one recipe. It'll still seal with the 1 inch headspace. It will just take a little longer. So again, I'm not worried about the 1 inch headspace. And first thing I need to do is I need to debubble and then wipe the rims down and get it in the water bath canner for 15 minutes. Good morning, everyone. It is the next day. The jars have cooled down. As you can see, I've taken off the rims. I've wiped down the jars. I double checked the seal. They all sealed great. And remember how the recipe was like, don't worry if the brine doesn't cover all the slaw. I see what they mean now, because the brine is not covering all the slaw once it cools down. So but you know, the recipe says that's fine. And I am glad I did 1 inch headspace, because, well, this one is fine, but here, this one definitely went over the inch and maybe would have siphoned if I would have did a 1/2 inch. And that could be because I packed it down too much, but they look great. They all sealed. This jar looks slightly different. This is a vintage one, but it's still sealed. They all look great. And so yeah, I think I'm gonna, I gotta run to Walmart to pick up a couple items. I think I'm gonna pick up another head of cabbage while they're on sale this week, because this looks great. Like I said, I taste tested it and it was great. So these are pint jars, and it's just me and my husband, a family of 2. So this pint jar is perfect for the both of us. But if you're a bigger family, I'm sure you can can them in quarts. You would probably need to water bath can it for 20 minutes. But honestly, that's just my opinion. You definitely need to do your own research and check out the official canning website to see what it recommends. But yeah, the pint jars was 15 minutes and they turned out great.